It was a cold Friday evening when James, a single dad working as a junior assistant at a busy marketing firm, was closing up the office. His daughter, Lily, was at home with her grandmother, and he was already looking forward to the weekend, hoping for a quiet night to catch up on some much-needed rest. But fate had other plans. His boss, Miss Evelyn Harper, was notorious for her workaholic attitude, often burning the midnight oil and pushing herself beyond limits. Tonight, however, something was different. James heard hurried footsteps echoing in the hall, and moments later, Evelyn stumbled into the empty office lobby, her breath smelling sharply of alcohol. Evelyn, a woman usually poised and confident, was unsteady on her feet. Her phone slipped from her trembling hand, and James instinctively moved to catch it. "Ms. Harper, are you okay?" he asked cautiously. She looked up, her eyes glassy but sharp, and muttered, "James, I just needed a break. One drink turned into a few too many." James's protective instincts kicked in. He knew Evelyn was a tough woman, but she was human too. Vulnerable. The city streets were dangerous at night, especially for someone in her condition. The last thing James wanted was for his boss to end up in trouble, or worse. He gently guided her to a nearby bench, trying to keep her steady as they sat. Evelyn's phone buzzed insistently, a string of missed calls from an aggressive client she had recently clashed with. The tension around her was mounting, and James realized the situation was about to spiral out of control. Just then, a group of men approached, their eyes fixed on Evelyn. They were clearly looking for trouble, perhaps to exploit her vulnerable state. James's heart pounded. Protecting his boss, especially in this moment, felt like the right thing to do, even if it meant risking his own safety. "Stay behind me," James whispered firmly, positioning himself between Evelyn and the strangers. Using calm words and a steady voice, he diffused the confrontation. The men, sensing James's determination and courage, eventually backed off. Evelyn, though still drunk and embarrassed, looked at James with gratitude. "Thank you," she slurred softly. "I don't know what I'd do without you." James helped her get into a cab and made sure she got home safely. As the taxi pulled away, he couldn't shake the feeling that this night would change everything, not just for Evelyn, but for himself and his little girl. Chapter 2. The morning after. A new beginning. The next morning, the office buzzed with its usual hum of activity, but Evelyn Harper was different. She walked in with her usual sharp elegance, but her eyes betrayed a sleepless night and a hint of remorse. The events of the previous night were a blur, and yet she remembered everything. Every moment when James had been her shield, her steady hand, and her protector. At the morning meeting, Evelyn surprised everyone by acknowledging James openly. "Last night, I made mistakes," she began, voice steady but sincere. "And thanks to James, those mistakes didn't become disasters. He saved me, and not just as my assistant, but as a man of integrity and courage." The room fell silent. James felt a mix of pride and surprise. His dedication, as a single father, juggling the pressures of work and family, had never felt more meaningful. Evelyn continued, "I realize now how important it is to have people who care, people who will stand by you even when you're at your lowest. James, you reminded me of that. From that day on, Evelyn made it her mission to support James more than just as an employee. She helped him adjust his work schedule to spend more time with Lily, trusted him with more responsibilities, and even encouraged him to pursue his dreams beyond the office walls. James's story became a beacon, a reminder that kindness and bravery, no matter how small, can change lives, and in the process, it forged an unbreakable bond between a single dad and his boss, a bond built on respect, trust, and gratitude. The days after that unforgettable night at the office were filled with subtle changes. Evelyn Harper, once a relentless force driven by deadlines and profit, began to slow down, not out of weakness, but out of a newfound awareness. She was no longer just the demanding boss. She was human, capable of vulnerability. James noticed at first during a late afternoon meeting. Evelyn, normally stern and brisk, paused to ask about Lily's school play, a conversation so out of character that James almost blinked in surprise. "It's next Friday," he replied, a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "I'm trying to make sure I don't miss it." Evelyn nodded thoughtfully. "Family matters. I get it now." James felt a lump in his throat. He had spent so many nights worrying about juggling work and being there for Lily. To have his boss recognize that balance was something he didn't expect, but the newfound respect between them wasn't without challenges. Rumors began to swirl around the office, whispers about Evelyn's recent struggles, and some colleagues began questioning James's sudden rise in influence one afternoon. As James was filing papers in the quiet back room, he overheard two senior managers talking in hushed tones. "Did you hear about Evelyn's incident last? Week one whispered, and now she's giving James more responsibility seems off. Doesn't it?" James clenched his fists, but chose silence. He knew that in every office, gossip could spread like wildfire, and it could poison even the strongest bonds. That night, after putting Lily to bed, James sat alone on the couch, the weight of his worries settling deep in his chest. Being a single dad was hard enough, without office politics complicating things, but he had made a promise to himself and to Lily to keep fighting no matter what. Meanwhile, Evelyn was wrestling with her own demons. The shame of her vulnerability gnawed at her, but she also felt a spark of something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. James's quiet strength reminded her that she didn't have to carry the weight alone, determined to make things right. Evelyn arranged a private meeting with James the next morning. "James," she said, her voice steady but sincere, "I want you to know that I trust you and I want to help you balance your work and your life. You've saved me in more ways than one, and I owe you that." James was taken aback, but grateful. "Thank you, Miss Harper. I'm just trying to do my best." "No," she interrupted, smiling warmly. "For the first time, you're doing more than that. You're reminding me what it means to be human." Their bond grew stronger, built not just on work, but on mutual respect and shared struggles. One evening, Evelyn surprised James by showing up at Lily's school play. She clapped enthusiastically alongside James's mother, who beamed proudly at both of them. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes, a symbol of support and friendship. James realized that night that sometimes the most unlikely relationships can heal wounds and change lives forever. As the story of the single dad and his boss spread quietly through the company, it became clear that true leadership wasn't about power or perfection. It was about compassion, courage, and standing together when it mattered. Most weeks passed, and the quiet shift in Evelyn and James's relationship began to ripple through the office and their personal lives. The rumors that had once threatened to undermine their bond slowly faded, replaced by respect and admiration from colleagues who saw the change wasn't just professional. It was deeply personal. But life, as it often does, had more challenges in store. One afternoon, James received a call from his daughter's school. Lily had been caught in a playground accident. Nothing serious, but enough to send James into a panic. He rushed to the school, heart pounding, only to find Lily sitting with a scraped knee, smiling bravely. "I'm okay, Dad," she said, squeezing his. And don't worry. That moment reminded James why he worked so hard. For Lily, his little girl, his world. Later that day, exhausted but determined, James confided in Evelyn during a late meeting. "Being a single dad isn't easy," he admitted. "There are days when I feel like I'm failing both at work and at home." Evelyn looked at him with genuine understanding. "You're stronger than you know, James, and you don't have to do it alone anymore." Her words weren't just encouragement. They were a promise. In the weeks that followed, Evelyn took active steps to support James. She helped create flexible working hours, encouraged the team to be more understanding of personal challenges, and even arranged for a mentorship program that would help employees balance life and work better at the same time. Evelyn faced her own battles. She reached out for help to address her drinking problem, seeking counseling to ensure she would never again put herself or others at risk. Their friendship grew into a partnership, each inspiring the other to become better versions of themselves. One evening, after a company celebration, Evelyn surprised James by inviting him and Lily to dinner at her home. It was a simple gesture, but to James, it meant the world. Over the meal, Lily giggled as Evelyn told stories about her own childhood struggles, breaking down barriers and building trust. "You're like family now," Evelyn said softly, smiling. James felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't known in years, a sense of belonging, of hope. The story of the single dad who saved his boss, and, in turn, was saved by her kindness, became a legend in their office, a testament to the power of compassion, resilience, and second chances. And for James and Evelyn, it was only the beginning of a journey filled with friendship, healing, and the promise of brighter days ahead. Months had passed since that fateful night when James stepped in to save Evelyn from a crisis that could have changed everything. What started as a moment of urgency had blossomed into an extraordinary friendship, one that transformed both their lives in ways neither could have imagined. James had become more than just Evelyn's assistant. He was her confidant, her ally, and a symbol of unwavering strength. For James, the change was not Only professional but deeply personal, the support he received from Evelyn allowed him to balance his responsibilities at work and be the father Lily needed. One crisp autumn morning, as James dropped Lily off at school, Evelyn pulled up beside him in her car. "Mind if I join you for a quick coffee?" she asked, a genuine smile lighting her face. James nodded, feeling a surge of warmth over steaming cups. They talked, not about work, but about dreams, hopes for the future, fears they had long hidden, and the simple joys that made life worth living. Evelyn confided, "I've realized that success isn't just about climbing the ladder, it's about the people we lift up along the way." James smiled, thinking of Lily's bright eyes, and the little hand he held tightly every morning. "I've learned that too," he said softly. "Sometimes the hardest battles teach us the greatest lessons." Their conversations grew deeper, and the trust between them became unshakable. Evelyn encouraged James to take on new challenges, including a leadership role that would allow him to mentor others, something he had dreamed about but never dared pursue. Meanwhile, Evelyn continued her journey of healing, attending support groups and becoming an advocate for workplace mental health. She knew firsthand the pressures that could drive someone to their breaking point, and she was determined to change the culture in their company. One evening, after a successful project launch, Evelyn surprised James with an invitation to speak. At the company's annual gala, standing before their colleagues, James shared his story, not just of hardship, but of hope, resilience, and the power of kindness. The room erupted in applause, and James caught sight of Evelyn's proud smile in the crowd. It was a moment neither would forget. As the gala ended, Lily ran into James's arms, her laughter filling the air. Evelyn watched, a quiet tear tracing down her cheek. In that moment, they all knew, no matter the obstacles, family was more than blood. It was the bonds we choose, the love we give, and the courage to keep moving forward. Their story was a reminder that even in the darkest times, light can find a way in, through a helping hand, a listening ear, and the strength of a single act of bravery.